Welcome to the conversation part of the Upper Bowl podcast. We have a Flyers beat reporter for The Athletic. He's also covered teams like the San Jose Sharks for 10 plus years for Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area / NBC Sportsnet Bay Area during the prime years of Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau in their heyday. He's covered the New York Islanders for 2 years as well. I'd like to welcome to the Upper Bowl podcast. You may have seen him on Crossing Broadcast a few times with me and Kevin Kincaid. I'd like to welcome to the podcast Kevin Kurz. Kevin, how are we doing? And I got to say, that was a fun Minnesota game we had last night. How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. I wasn't at the Minnesota game, but yeah, that was a little bit of a surprising win, I would say.
Yeah, like especially on a back-to-back when it was like this. It was like kind of like I always go by this. The deck is kind of stacked against you, but I always say this: if you manage the goalies well, you go up to number 2 the first game, and the second game you go for your number 1. I feel like you win usually, and they looked good.
Yeah, the goalie rotation was a little odd. You know, I thought they were going to go with Ersson on Monday against the Rangers because I thought Vladar started to look a little bit tired. But I thought the way Rick Tocchet explained it was interesting. You know, he clarified that Vladar really wanted to play that game, and the coaching staff felt that he had earned that right. So, you know, in a perfect world, you probably want the coaching staff to step in and say, you know, listen, you look tired, take the night off. That didn't happen, and you know the Flyers suffered for it. But I did find that interesting that you know Vladar's played so well, and this team wouldn't be where they were, even where they are right now without him. So you know he earned the right in the coach's minds to start the game that he wanted to start.
Yeah, definitely. I think like I didn't know that anyways because I was working and stuff. I was like, oh, he started again, sweet. Anyways, and I saw like the talk of like, oh, he wanted the game. I was like, okay. And he had that. Yeah. I was like, okay, you should have went with the goal. I think I saw your tweets about it. Anyways, like I looked, I was like, yeah, you could make the point anyways because you have a back-to-back coming up on Tuesday and on Wednesday and Thursday, so it only makes sense anyway. So like, try not to overuse them, and you have a back-to-back next week as well. This coming week versus the Kings and the Ducks and the Kings, so it'll be really interesting. What's been your when you've been covering the Flyers this year on the ground floor? What's been your thoughts on the post-trade deadline, would you say, for the Flyers? They moved out Bobby Brink, who was kind of like on the outs anyways because they have a logjam at wing with all the young kids coming up. What's been your thoughts so far post-trade deadline?
Yeah, I don't think there was anyone was overly surprised that they moved out a winger, just when you look at what they have right now, what they have coming. And even, you know, they even still have a logjam coming at wing. When you look at the way Denver Barkey's kind of arrived, Alex Bump, I think, has done some pretty good things in his short stint so far. We'll see where he goes the rest of the year. So they do have some talent there. And you wonder if they might move out someone else in the offseason, particularly if they're able to find a team that's going to deal them a top 6 center, which is certainly not going to be easy. You know, I think coming out of the deadline, what was the most surprising part of the January sort of nosedive was that they lost their defensive structure, and that was something that I thought they picked up right away when Rick Tocchet came in. And you know, Rick Tocchet's known for playing a certain defensive structure, and this team looked like they had it for a while, at least through Thanksgiving and maybe even Christmas, and then they quickly lost it. So, you know, I'm sure there was a fatigue factor, but every team's fatigued, so you can't really use that as an excuse. But I do think that based on what we've seen, this team maybe benefited from that break more than some other teams did. And you know, the way this team's going to win games is with low event hockey, not always all that exciting. They still, I think, lack a little bit of skill up front. I think that's evident. They certainly lack speed up front. That's going to have to be addressed at some point. But, you know, you look at the season, they are where they deserve to be, right? And you look at the standings right now, they haven't played well enough to be in playoff position, and they haven't been horrible. They certainly have some holes that they're going to need to fix in the offseason if they want to keep moving this thing forward.
Is it bad that they're winning? Because I personally, I go by, if they're winning, I'm fine. Like, I'm way past, if you want to do the draft pick tanking, I'm like, go for it. And I'm going to be tuning out anyways. I kind of, enjoy how they're still fighting anyways, because I feel like it's I don't want this team to be boring the whole month of March and April anyways. I like how he's, still giving us a reason to watch still. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, no coach is ever going to try to lose, right?
Yeah.
we saw Torts kind of go crazy last year when that was really at the end of the day that they did want to finish as low as possible last season, and they kind of achieved that. and they got a heck of a prospect out of it. That's certainly not the plan right now. You know, it's they're trying to move this thing forward. They didn't blow it up at the trade deadline. Not that they had that many options to blow it up, but you know, they weren't going to sell low on a guy like Rasmus Ristolainen. And it's not just because their asking price wasn't met. It's because they view Ristolainen as still a good player, and he's been playing well. And he's a guy that could potentially help you next year. You know, if he's in the top 4 next year and next, you know, we're in late February and the Flyers are in the top 3 in the Metro somehow, I mean, they're probably not going to trade him. They're going to keep him. So
yeah. It's common sense anyways.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I see it right now. We'll see how the rest of it goes here. You know, it's baffling that they haven't been able, I shouldn't say baffling, but it's concerning that they haven't been able to play consistently well for, you know, they don't have a 4-game winning streak in more than 2 years now. Right. And
feels like
if they're going to keep this thing interesting, I mean, they've won 2 in a row right now. They certainly are going to have to win Saturday against Columbus.
Yep.
You know, you win that game and then, you know, you win in LA. We'll see where they're at then. But, you know, if I'm a fan and I'm watching this team, I feel like it would be nice to see a lot. You want to see, you certainly want to see them win games, but I think you want to see the younger players like Jamie Drysdale's, Owen Tippett's, even Cam York, Zegras. You want to see these guys finish the season strong because they're not going anywhere. So that's the way I would look at it if I was just on the outside, right? I mean,
like I'm looking at it as like I want to see Jamie Drysdale improve, which I think he's improved phenomenal this year. Like it was like first year is like they trade him because of the Gauthier situation. I was like, okay, there's a lot of work here, which I'm like, I'll trust this one with the coaches and stuff. And he looked, and especially with Reardon, who's the defensive whisperer, he looks really good this year. It's like, oh sweet, we have a top 6 full defenseman at least, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I would say he's more than that. I think he's a solid top 4 guy at this point. You know, the defensive aspect has been great with him. You know, he's certainly improved the defense, and now you see him offensively getting that shot through, looking for more of a shot first mentality. The power play is still a work in progress. You know, they've had better zone time at least in the last few games, and I think we've seen Drysdale. He doesn't have a big booming shot, but if he can find lanes and they can get the traffic in front, they're going to create more goals than they have so far. So we'll see if that sticks. Him as the number 1 power play guy. I think in a perfect world, you'd like to have that number 1 top offensive guy. But the way he's playing, you know, not just offensively, but defensively, yeah, I think he's firmly established himself as a top 4 defenseman in this league. And those guys are not easy to find.
No. I feel like the Flyers haven't had that since like Desjardins was around, or like Chris Pronger was towards the end. Name anybody else anyway. So it's like it's kind of refreshing. Like, oh, it's a young guy. It's just kind of cool. It's not like an aging veteran. It's like, oh, sweet, we have one. But like this one's like, oh, it's a young guy. There's a lot of future in this anyway.
Yeah, he's a more. I think he's more like a Chemo Timonen type, right? Who isn't going to necessarily let up the scoreboard. And Chemo, I don't think had a big booming shot either. But no. I think there's a lot of similarities there. You know, if Jamie Drysdale is Chemo Timonen, and that's you know. Win. Yeah, and I know people are still going to bitch and moan about the Cutter Gauthier trade, and I'm not saying that's not valid. You got a guy that's going to score 40 goals and looks like a future star, but you know, Drysdale is certainly you know, he's improved this year, and I think that's got to be encouraging.
Definitely for sure. Who's the next young guy you're looking forward to see getting the call up? Because we had Alex Bubb. I was entertained by his debut, anyways, versus the Penguins at least.
Well, Juracek is going to be. It's going to be interesting to see when he gets called up. And I got, you know, I had a piece on him drop today. I drove up to Allentown yesterday to talk to him. And I talked to other people in the organization. And I don't think I would be surprised if he doesn't get some NHL games before the end of the year, you know, especially if this team falls out of it, you know, let the guy come up, get a taste, get acclimated to his surroundings going into next year when he's basically going to have to be on the team unless they're going to waive him. So he's going to be a guy I'm going to keep an eye on. There's certainly a spot for him there as a right shot defenseman. I've seen enough of Noah Juleson, frankly. So I think if Juracek goes down, you know, plays well with the Phantoms and does some good things down there and shows himself to be a guy receptive to coaching and all that, I think we'll see him at some point by the end of the year. In terms of, they've got Barkey and Bump here. I mean, those are the two. Those were the two guys I think we were most interested to see, at least going.
I've actually forgot about Barkey the whole time. Anyways, I was like, oh, when are these kids coming? Anyways, like, oh, sweet, we have a kid. And he debuted versus the Rangers. Like, oh, he's entertaining at least.
Yeah, that was a little surprising when he got called up ahead of Bump. But I remember being told early in the season they didn't want to recall Bump until after Christmas, which is how it played out. But Barkey was their most consistent guy. He was their, I think, in terms of the young guys, he was their smartest player in terms of two-way play and hockey sense and all that stuff. And we've seen him adapt up here. I think, Rick Tocchet loves the foundation of this kid, and how can you not? I mean, he's smart. He's a good teammate. He works hard. He's receptive to coaching. He's trying to get better on and off the ice every day. He's just got to get stronger, right? And he's 20 years old. He will get stronger. Yeah. So he's more intriguing to me at this point than Bump is a little bit, just because I do think that foundation is there, and certainly he's made a fan of Rick Tocchet. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so that's why, you talk about the logjam at wing, he has to be mentioned among those guys, the Owen Tippett's and the Zegrases and the Tyson Forsters. I mean, Barkey's in that mix now. Is he a guy that can keep his spot in the top 9 moving forward?
And you got Porter Martone. Everybody's waiting for that call up whenever Michigan State gets eliminated. I know Notre Dame got eliminated. Cole Knubel's everyone's waiting for that call up as well when he's going to sign.
Well, he'll go to the Phantoms, but Martone, I think, could certainly make an appearance here with the Flyers before the season's over.
So we should root for Michigan State to lose whenever time in the college
you
hockey
can do it. You can do whatever you want. But even when the Frozen Four is over, I think the Flyers have 2 games left. So it'll be interesting to see if Michigan State does go all the way. Would the Flyers try to quickly get him in here and just plug him in? Whether they got a back-to-back to end the season at home, why not?
Yeah, I would say if they get eliminated, let's say the first or second round, get them up here. I just want to see it anyways. And you feel like. Yeah, I don't say you have to owe the fans something, but this kid's been making me want to watch college hockey, so it's been entertaining to watch on Thursday night.
No one's explicitly told me that, but I think just reading the tea leaves a little bit, I do get the sense that that's what's going to happen. I might be wrong, but that's just the impression I've come away with, is that I think that's going to happen.
Okay, all right. Let's start with this West Coast road trip. So you covered the Sharks. You were I like to call you the king of the Pacific Division. Can we say that? Because you pretty much been everywhere
for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were there, the first generation of the Pacific.
Yeah, Division. It was fun when I was there. When I first got to San Jose, that was when all those California teams were so good, and those games were just great. And it was a sort of thing where, coming from the East, I moved from Philly out there, Philly area out there, and I'm not staying up to watch 10:30 games most nights, but the games out there, I mean, they were heavy, they were hard, they were mean. I mean, it was great hockey. It was the heyday of obviously the Kings came away with 2 Stanley Cups out of it when I was there. The Ducks won before I got there, and the Sharks were in the mix more times than not. But those were great games.
I gotta ask, what's the difference between the East Coast hockey fan and the West Coast hockey fan? I gotta say,
the West Coast hockey fan, I feel like they get a little bit. It's not as. How do I put this politely? I think they root. I've been asked this question before. I have to be careful with my words. They fall in love with the players out there. I think the individual players a little bit more, and
like NBA style almost.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And they get upset when, not all of them, but I think some of them get upset when you're overly critical of guys that they've Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau, these guys were not above criticism. And that was when I covered the team. Frankly, they underachieved pretty much everywhere I was there. And that's only because they were expected to make a long run and win a Stanley Cup. And really the only year they didn't underachieve that I was there was 2016 when they made the Stanley Cup final. So I thought there was room to be critical of a team that would consistently fall flat. So, but I don't, in terms of the fans, I think they're definitely the more casual type, where they're not necessarily locked into the minute details of everything that's going on within the hockey team, but they still, but that doesn't make them any less of a fan than someone out here that's going to react about who the fourth line winger and the sixth defenseman is, right? So it's certainly no less of a fandom, but it's a little bit different. Yeah.
Would you say it's grown, like the West Coast hockey fans grown? Ebbs and flows when you were there, you can see it more. People are going to more hockey games, especially.
Well, when I was in San Jose, it was a steady stream of the casual sports fans migrated from the Sharks to the Warriors because that was the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson
Oh,
Warriors that were dominating. So I saw the Sharks fan base decline little by little year over year. And
mm-hmm,
then you get what you had the last couple of years after I left, just an empty building.
mm-hmm.
And now I love seeing it come back to life because,
Yeah.
they get the top pick, they got a future star, they're a team on the rise. And from what I've seen from afar, they've got a whole new, generation of fans that are catching on to hockey. So I think that's always nice to see.
Would you say that the Olympics helped out the exposure of Macklin Celebrini? Could we say that?
I would say that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but every time I'm turning on, the laptop or the TV, I'm seeing a highlight from this kid. So I don't think he was necessarily underexposed either.
I know what I mean is like to the casual sports fan, like who is this Macklin Celebrini kid? And it's like us hockey guys, we know who he is. And he's like,
Yeah.
I'll stay up late to watch him or watch it. They play like Buffalo on a Tuesday night at least.
I'm a little skeptical of how much of bump the NHL gets from the Olympics.
Okay.
Maybe it did more this time just because it did turn out to be a great tournament. But I don't know that a market like even in here in Philadelphia, like did the Flyers get a bump in their fandom because of the Olympics? I don't know. I don't really think so.
If they had someone on Team USA, maybe
maybe some teams did. Yeah, you're right. Maybe like a team like Minnesota did, or
Minnesota, maybe Florida,
Jersey.
at least.
Yeah.
Jersey,
maybe a little
Jersey
bit.
especially. Maybe the Bruins. It just really depends who, anyway. So
Yeah,
like if it's a small market like team,
that's
like
true.
Like that's like I'm down here in Florida. I was here when like they won the President's Trophy my first year. I was like, okay. Then they traded Matthew Tkachuk. Everybody got mad. I was like, you're gonna like this guy anyways. And lo and behold,
Yeah,
he was like, Trevor, you're right. Anyways, so I kind of view it as like people were like, we're very like some people were excited, but it's like the casual fan I knew was like, you excited for Olympics? Like, yeah. Why do you think I'm wearing a USA hockey shirt? Come on.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool, anyways. And plus, I feel like I watched enough celebrating, but I was like seeing him like up close and personal. Like, oh, this kid's got something, even though he's got the best players around him. It's like he's purely entertaining. And all we just need is like ESPN or TNT. Like, put the Sharks on late night and we'll be good to go, anyways.
Yeah, and maybe a market like San Jose got a little boost from seeing Celebrini over there, but Canada didn't win either. So
hey, you never. Yeah. Hey, they got the silver anyways, and they got their plushie thing anyways. Yeah. Ducks and Kings, the first two games of the back-to-back. How excited you've been to many of the Cutter-Gauthier versus the Flyer games, anyways? How have you enjoyed those games, or is it a cool thing to see, anyways? For the
Flyers? How can you not? I mean, the two games here in Philadelphia, that was in the last 2 years. Those have been the two games with the best atmosphere. It's not even close. So, and I think the fact of the Flyers, I think they dominated both. I certainly did 2 years ago. I think they won pretty handily this year too, right?
Yep.
In that game, so. I think the players get a kick out of the atmosphere, certainly at home, and I think the guys that have been here a while are get a little bit up for it too, just because of how it all went down. Guys like Konechny and Sanheim, I mean, those guys have the Flyers logo tattooed on their chest, and so when a guy like Gauthier wants to spurn them, I guess the way to put it, they take it a little bit personally. So even. The Flyers I think they won the game out there in Anaheim last year too. So we'll see. That should be a good game. It's a second of a back-to-back for the Flyers because they started in LA. So we'll see. Right? They started Anaheim. First game's Anaheim. That's right. Yeah, so they should be well rested for that one too. So it actually should be another game because they play Saturday and then they're flying out there on Monday. Mm-hmm. They're going to practice in, I think, Irvine on Tuesday, and then the game's Wednesday. So
yep.
They should be pretty well rested for that game. And I think that's a game that they get up for just because of the circumstances and because they know that the fans do too.
Yeah. I've kind of viewed it the first two, like, oh, this is it feels like an old like Flyer Penguin game from back in the day or like a Flyer Ranger playoff game. I was like, oh, this is entertaining to see. Like people are filling the building at least. And I'm kind of excited to see how many road Flyer fans will come out for it anyways.
Well, I remember last season, the first time they met Cutter-Gauthier was in Anaheim. Mm-hmm. And there were Flyers fans there. You could hear the boos in the Anaheim crowd, his home crowd. I would imagine that's going to be the same thing this year. I mean, Anaheim's better this year. I don't know. Maybe they're filling in their building a little bit more with their own fans, but there were certainly Flyers fans there last season. I think that game was right in December. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
How much? I know we rarely watch the West Coast teams. Like, were you shocked when not the Panthers, the Ducks got the defenseman from Washington who was there forever, anyways, John Carlson.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they needed a right shot defenseman. I was surprised it was him, as just as everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just I looked at it, I was like, oh, they did it in the middle, and it was pretty crazy. Would you say that's like one of the best teams in the Pacific? Would you say? Is there a lead?
Well, the whole Pacific stinks, basically, right?
That's something new to say, anyways.
I still would think it's Vegas, to be honest, but I can't say I'm watching Pacific Division games every single night. So, and I know even Vegas, like they hadn't beaten a team in playoff position since like November, right? So it was something. It was some sort of crazy stat. So. That'll be interesting just because, Edmonton's obviously come out of the Pacific the last couple of years. Are they going to be able to do it again, even though that, they certainly can just because that division's pretty weak?
Yeah, I haven't seen the division be this bad in forever, maybe, which is crazy to say. The Kings game, they're reeling. We could say that, right? Like they fired their coach. They bring in Panarin. They traded like a few players. They got can we say it's a Scott Laughton revenge game? Would you say?
No. I wouldn't say that. I don't think there's any feelings of ill will Scott Laughton has towards the organization. So
no, I'm saying it's just like, oh, he wants to show up against the Flyers anyways.
I'm sure he does. He already scored a big goal against them. I mean, his overtime goal in that Toronto game was basically the start of their decline in that month, right? So he kind of got his revenge on them already.
So now he gets it twice now anyways. What's the more important game to win, would you say? The Ducks game in the first game, the Kings game, or just try to get at least as many points as you can, would you say?
Yeah, I don't think it's one or the other. I think that still pretty mathematically it's a long shot that this team's going to make a playoff run. I mean, they just have to string wins together. You want to if they're gonna make a miracle run here, you got to win on Saturday, and you probably have to at least get 4 or 5 points out of this California trip. So no matter how they come.
Definitely. I just think it'll be a fun trip anyway. So I'm excited. And I think actually the Duck games gonna be entertaining. I think all 3 games are just on the West Coast are just gonna be entertaining. I love how it's a 4:00 start on the East Coast. So it's a 1:00.
Yeah, that is nice. Yep, definitely.
So what's been your favorite series you've covered so far? Since you were covering the Sharks anyways.
Playoff series?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Well, I mean, I've seen 2 reverse sweeps, right? I was working for the Flyers in 2010 when they came back to beat Boston. And then 3 years later, I think it was 3 years later, I saw the Kings come back and erase a 3-0 deficit against the Sharks. The one that stands out is 2019 when the Sharks were down 3-1 to Vegas, and they came back and they won that crazy Game 7 when they were down 3-0, and they scored 4 power play goals.
Yep.
After Joe Pavelski got hit. That was probably the craziest single game I've ever seen. But I also haven't covered a playoff team since, the Islanders had a quick in and out in 2022. So it's been a while since I covered playoff hockey.
How do you like your coverage of the Islanders, would you say? Because they were kind of like in the new building, right? That was the first year you did it?
Yeah, the team was bad in the first year I got there. They were better the second year, but they were just never, viewed as a contender, right? Obviously, that's pre-Matthew Schaefer. But they brought Bo Horvat in. Sorokin is a great goalie. I know he's kind of found his game this year. But it was a good room. It was a good group of guys. Anders Lee, Ryan Pulock, Noah Dobson. You could see they had a lot of good veterans. They were still in a little bit of a transition mode, but I think that right now is a team that's getting overlooked a little bit. I could see that team surprising people in the playoffs because I think they're actually built for playoff hockey. They've got to be better defensively. They gave up too many high danger chances, but they've also got the good goalie. And they've got some solid vets, like I said, Horvat, Pulock, Braden Shen now, you're right. So that's a team I could see them turning some heads once the playoffs start, just based on some of those guys that I've covered.
Okay. They play right now they're prospected to play the Penguins. Were you shocked that the Penguins are this entertainingly good this year?
Yeah, I think the Islanders and Penguins, that would be a good series, but I would pick the Islanders in that, frankly.
Okay. I have a weird feeling I just have a weird feeling the Islanders could do that and then to keep the Penguins. They've not won a playoff series since they beat the Flyers in 17, 18. So it'd be kind of funny to see that go. What's your biggest thing with the Olympics and stuff that's passed? Are you shocked to see like the ratings are going up and stuff? Or especially the national TV?
Are they going up? I have no idea.
They were like up, like the Flyer Brewing gave it like 1 million people watch it. Like it was like peaking there and stuff.
Yeah, maybe. So. Maybe.
So, all right, Kevin. Where can everyone follow your work and everything? Because I duly enjoy your work. By the way, I'm glad there's.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
I don't understand why people want to dunk on you, but some of the memes are ridiculous.
Well, people got upset about the Michkov stuff, but I mean, whatever.
That's good reporting, though. That's good reporting, though.
Yeah, so I don't get upset about that. I mean, there's a reason all this stuff has happened with him, and so what are you gonna do?
Hey, at least you're reporting it, because I feel like if it was like the Eagles or the Phillies, they'll be swept under the rug, like Nick Castellanos was drinking beer and stuff. At least you're reporting it. I like to say bravo by that. At least someone still.
No, I appreciate that.
It.
Yeah.
So where can everyone follow your stuff?
I'm at the Athletic. Yeah, I'm at the Athletic. Kurz NHL on Twitter, which I'm not using as much anymore because it's gotten worse and worse over the years. That's where you can find me.
Kevin Kurz. I hope we get coffee or we see each other at the rink one of the few days.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know for sure. Yeah, you got my number. Yeah, reach out.
Definitely. All right. Thank you for coming on the pod. Appreciate it.